Welcome back to AM Northwest. What happens when a Francophile father moves his wife and kids to rural France for half a year? Well, we're about to find out. We welcome the author of A Season for That, Lost and Found in the Other Southern France, Steve Hoffman, and his wife, Mary Jo. Good to have you both with us.
Thank you.
You're both authors because you have A Season for That, and Mary Jo, you have this Art of Noticing Still is the name of the book. It's incredible art, by the way.
Thank you.
Beautiful still
Thank
life.
you.
I love it. But let's start with you, Steve, and talk. You were a tax preparer.
And am, yes.
And are.
Yep.
And a Francophile.
Yes.
And okay, so I want to go through the discussion you had with Mary Jo when you thought, we should move to southern France for 6 months.
Our kids had gone to French immersion school in St. Paul.
Oh, great.
Because I've been a Francophile and a Francophone most of my adult life. I studied French in college, spent a year in Paris, and became more or less fluent and have loved France for the rest of my life. So it was a joint decision. We wanted to go there, put our kids in local schools so that they could cement this French education that they've had, and ideally speak French well for the rest of their lives.
Right.
We kind of thought we were going to be along for the ride. We would go to a French village. We picked southern France because it was warm, and we're from Minnesota.
I get it.
And they spoke French there, and that was all about all the planning that we did. We kind of intentionally underplanned this trip. We liked the idea of going, living by our wits, and not over planning our trips.
I love this picture here. That's gorgeous.
That's our front door.
That's
That's
the front
view
stoop,
from our front door. Yes, we fell very hard for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did the kids handle that? Your daughter was 14. Your son was how old?
9.
9. I'm gonna guess the 14-year-old wasn't too happy with this idea.
She was missing the lunch table with her friends at Chippewa Middle School in Shoreview, Minnesota, and couldn't believe that we made her go to southern France. And our son Joe was 9, and kind of a tender-hearted boy.
Yeah.
He was open to it.
Right.
But I do think they both felt as if
along for
this
the
was,
ride. Yeah.
you know, if we had a decent family life, he was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And we did work very hard to establish that while we were there, so that the kids who were going to be challenged to the very limits of their capacities could at least come home to something that was fairly familiar.
What are the first things you learned when you got to southern France?
Well, that we were in a winemaking village, which we didn't know.
That we weren't in Paris.
That we were not in Paris at all. that my Parisian French, which is pretty good, wasn't going to help us as much as I thought, because there's a very strong southern accent in southern France.
Oh, interesting.
That is similar to our southern
Yeah,
accent.
makes sense.
So it's, they speak like you would speak in a holler in West Virginia, and I spoke the equivalent French of our sort of flat Midwest, upper Midwestern English.
Right.
So, even though I thought we were going to fit in because I spoke French, even that was, we sort of outlined us as strangers in this place.
But you learn to, when I'm reading the book, you talk about letting go of some things, and like when you go to a grocery store, do what the guy at the grocery store says that you should cook, right? Because you were working on your cooking as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
I was trying to kind of cook my way into the village as a way of helping the family become a part of things, so that we could make this more than just a pretty little trip. And a huge amount of what I learned, many of the lessons I learned over the course of this trip and that are described in the book, are letting go, dropping my ego, being willing to be ignorant, being willing to ask questions that might be silly, but that invite people to open up and make room for us in this place. And it really did happen once I started doing that.
Mary Jo, what was this experience like for you? First of all, you were an aerospace engineer, right?
Yep.
And now you're thrown into this, but it was a mutual decision. What was the experience like for you? What did you find out about yourself?
Yeah, it was interesting because I'm not a French speaker.
Right.
And it was a mutual decision, for the kids. I kind of took on the role of mama bear, like keeping an eye out for the kids and making sure we weren't asking too much of them.
Right.
But it was interesting in that, we're a marriage of equals, and suddenly and it's a rural village, and nobody spoke English. Nobody. I joke because even the English teacher at our daughter's French middle school didn't really speak English.
Really? Okay.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so she knew just a little bit more than the 14-year-olds, right? So she was the English teacher, and so I was at handicap, and it's interesting to be in a marriage of equals where everything is shared, everything's a joint, but I can't communicate.
Right. Wow.
So imagine going to parent-teacher conferences and not And listening to the teacher,
Yeah.
I can understand French when I hear it. Listening to her talk about your child, but not being able to
speak, yeah.
it was
You
it was
were-
interesting.
You worked on the artistic side of yourself, and these still lifes. You have a picture called Still. I mean, a book called Still, and so many beautiful pictures. You focused on that.
Yes, I did. I was doing this project, and I photograph something I find in my natural environment every single day. I've been doing it for 12 and a half years. It's over 4,600 some days.
Wow.
And I was doing that project there, and it was one of the, this is a rural agricultural village, and so me showing so much interest
Yeah.
in their natural environment was one of several keys that got us so deeply immersed into this village.
And your kids now, how are they doing? 26, 24?
26,
you said?
21.
26
21.
and 21.
And it's impacted them, and you can see it in the way they live their life now.
In the things that they value now, I feel
Yeah.
as if those seeds were planted in 2012 and they're bearing fruit now.
I
Absolutely.
love that. You have a season for that, and then Still. We're going to tell everyone, if you would like to find out more, we're going to put all the information on our website at katu.com. You two make a great pair. That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you both
Thank
so
you.
much.
This was fun.
Yes, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.